From the Music History Today Podcast Network, this is the Music History Today Podcast for August the 18th. On today's show, Jimmy plays Woodstock and FM radio premieres. Before we continue, though, as always, we very humbly ask you to like and subscribe to the channel if you do find it interesting, as we do post content every single day without fail, so thank you very much if you do. It is greatly appreciated. First up, though, on this date in 1932, musician Harmon Nelson married Hollywood icon Betty Davis. The jazz pianist wed the legendary actress in a quiet ceremony in Yuma, Arizona. And while their marriage only lasted a few years, Nelson was highly influential during Davis's early rise in Hollywood, even inspiring her famous nickname, the Fifth Fret. In 1937, the Federal Communications Commission granted a construction permit to station WGTR in Massachusetts, a project spearheaded by FM radio inventor Edwin Armstrong. This marked the official birth of high-fidelity FM broadcasting, and the frequency evolution eventually became the home of the legendary rock station WAAF, Worcester, Boston. Sorry, I'm from Massachusetts. That was one of my favorite stations back in the day. Anyway, in 1955, folk singer Pete Seeger testified before the House Un-American Activities Committee. The musician and activist was called to testify regarding his alleged ties to the Communist Party. Pete Seeger famously refused to plead the Fifth Amendment, choosing instead to argue that the questions violated his First Amendment rights to free speech, a bold stand that led to him being blacklisted from television for years. In 1962, Ringo Starr performed live as an official member of the Beatles for the first time. Ringo took over the drums for a gig at the Home Hare Horticultural Society in Port Sunlight, England, just days after the band fired their previous drummer, Pete Best. This lineup change solidified the historic Fab Four roster that would permanently change global pop culture. In 1969, the Beatles finished recording their track, The End. The band held their final recording session for the Abbey Road track, layered on the orchestration, and the song is important because it serves as the final collective studio piece recorded by all four members of the band, highlighted by Ringo's only drum solo and a message of closure to their fans. In 1969, Jimi Hendrix performed his historic morning set at the Woodstock Music Festival. Because of festival delays, Hendrix ended up taking the stage on Monday morning to close out the legendary weekend. It is widely regarded as being one of the most famous and defining performances in rock history. As the highest paid artist at the festival, Hendrix was originally scheduled to close the show on Sunday night. However, severe rainstorms and technical delays actually ended up changing the schedule. So instead of playing for a peak crowd, he stepped onto the stage at 9 a.m. on a Monday morning. By that time, the audience of 500,000 had dwindled down to about 30 to 40,000 people who stayed to watch the festival's grand finale. The show was Hendrix's first public concert since the breakup of his original band, the Jimi Hendrix Experience, only a few months earlier. For Woodstock, he put together a brand new expanded backup band that he introduced on stage as Gypsy Sun and Rainbows. Despite the early hour and a tired crowd, Hendrix delivered an uninterrupted set that lasted nearly 2 hours, making it one of the longest performances of his entire career. The undisputed climax of the concert was his solo rendition of the American national anthem, the Star-Spangled Banner. Playing his iconic white Fender Stratocaster, Hendrix used his guitar strings, a whammy bar, and intense amplifier feedback to manipulate the melody. He recreated the terrifying sounds of exploding bombs, screaming rockets, and air raid sirens. Performed during the height of the Vietnam War, this avant-garde interpretation became a powerful wordless protest piece and an instant symbol of the 1960s counterculture movement. As far as Hendrix's actual set went, he played 16 songs. Started off with Message to Love, then went to Hear My Train A-Comin', Spanish Castle Magic, Red House, during which he famously broke his high E guitar string and then just kept playing, Mastermind, Loverman, Foxy Lady, Jam Back at the House, beginning, Isabella, Gypsy Woman, and Aware of Love, Fire, Voodoo Child, Slight Return. Then he went into the Star Spangled Banner, then Purple Haze, Woodstock Improvisation, Villanova Junction, and for the finale, Hey Joe. It was the final encore for the entire festival. In 1973, drummer Gene Krupa played live with the Benny Goodman Quartet for the final time. The pioneering swing-era jazz drummer joined Goodman, Lionel Hampton, and Teddy Wilson for a final performance at Saratoga Springs, New York, and the event was an emotional farewell to jazz history as Krupa ended up passing away from leukemia just 2 months later. In 1977, Elvis Presley was laid to rest at Forest Hill Cemetery in Memphis, Tennessee. The King of Rock was temporarily interned in a family mausoleum surrounded by thousands of mourning fans. Following a scary, thwarted plot by 3 men to steal his body for ransom, both Elvis and his mother were permanently moved to the safety of Graceland's Meditation Garden on October 2, 1977. In 1978, Melvin Blue Franklin of The Temptations survived a violent carjacking. The legendary bass singer was shot 4 times in the hand and leg while trying to stop a thief from stealing his car in West Hollywood, California. Franklin survived the ordeal, but the injuries forced him to miss the group's historic upcoming European tour while he recovered. In 1979, singer-songwriter Nick Lowe married country music royalty Miss Carlene Carter. The English new wave icon wed Johnny Cash's stepdaughter, bridging the worlds of British punk pop and American outlaw country music. The relationship actually yielded some creative collaborations, you might say, including Nick Lowe producing Carlene Carter's acclaimed 1980 rockabilly-infused album, Musical Shapes. In 1984, Duran Duran's Nick Rhodes married American heiress Julie Ann Friedman. The keyboardist wed the prominent Biotics heiress in a lavish star-studded London wedding that embodied 1980s pop extravagance and all the Aquanet the world had at that particular moment, along with some really huge shoulder pads. It was the 80s after all. Bad times for fashion, just saying. The high-profile marriage further cemented Duran Duran's status as the ultimate fashion-forward darlings of the MTV era. In 2011, a stage collapsed during a storm at a music festival. It killed 4 people. It occurred during a severe storm at the Pukkelpop Music Festival in Hasselt, Belgium. In 2017, Taylor Swift wiped her social media clean. For a while, people were stunned. But it was actually to kick off the Reputation era. She shocked her fans by completely scrubbing her Instagram, Twitter, and the website, only to post cryptic videos of a snake 3 days later to launch Look What You Made Me Do. This highly successful stunt revolutionized modern music marketing, making a digital blank slate the go-to strategy for major pop stars rolling out a new album or a new tour. In award ceremonies that were held on August the 18th, in 1982, Liverpool renamed streets after members of the Beatles. The city of Liverpool officially honored its most famous musical sons by renaming a cluster of streets in a new housing estate, creating Beatles Rings, Paul McCartney Way, John Lennon Drive, McCartney Close, and Sutcliffe Street. Stuart Sutcliffe's mother was present at the ceremony to unveil the sign named after her late son, who was the band's original bass player during their early Hamburg days. This ceremony was important because it marked a major shift in how Liverpool embraced its pop culture heritage, officially cementing the Beatles as historical landmarks in their own hometown. Albums that were released on August the 18th include in 1976 when Burning Spear released Man in the Hills. This album solidified Burning Spear as a crucial voice in roots reggae. It didn't hit any of the mainstream Billboard charts, but it was very successful in Jamaica, as you would figure, and also in the underground UK reggae circles, since reggae was not huge in the UK, at least outside of, let's say, Brixton or Birmingham. At least at that point. It was the 70s, after all. In 1978, The Who released Who Are You? This was a huge commercial success for the band. It was also the last album to have drummer Keith Moon on it because he ended up passing away 3 weeks after its release. It peaked at number 2 in America on the Billboard Albums Chart, number 6 in the UK on their Albums Chart. It, of course, had the song Who Are You?, which later became even more famous as being the theme song for CSI, the original CSI, that is. And Sister Disco. In 1980, Yes released Drama. This marked a really bizarre era for the band. Lead singer John Anderson left the band and was replaced by Trevor Horn of the Buggles, giving the band a harder, more modern tech rock sound. As far as how well it did, extremely well. Hit number 2 in the UK, number 18 in America. It had the songs Tempest Fugit and Into the Lens. In 1981, Wall of Voodoo released Dark Continent. This was a highly unusual debut studio album. It helped to establish the quirky, experimental new wave of America at that point. Peaked at number 177 in America, though. The popular songs on it were Red Light and Back in Flesh. In 1986, Bon Jovi released Slippery When Wet. This album blew the roof off of 1980s hair band metal. Before this album, Bon Jovi had an album out that had a relatively decent hit song called Runaway. I say relatively decent in terms of how well it did, not the song itself. I actually really like the song. However, once this album came out, it was game over. Everybody was doing hair bands. All of a sudden you had Warrant, Trickster, Poison. All of them came out of the LA scene and became huge. This was the album that kickstarted it. Hit number 1 on the Billboard Albums Chart, stayed there for 8 weeks, gave the classics You Give Love a Bad Name, Living on a Prayer, and Wanted Dead or Alive. And those songs came out actually in that order. The album ended up winning the Worldwide Album of the Year at the 1987 MTV Video Music Awards, and it sold over 12 million copies. In 1986, ABBA released ABBA Live. This was the first official live album that was released by the Swedish pop icons. It peaked at number 49, though, in Sweden. You would have figured that it would have been bigger in Sweden, but it wasn't. It also completely missed the U.S. charts. It had live versions of Dancing Queen, Waterloo, and Fernando. In 1986, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds released Kicking Against the Pricks. This all-covers concept album had Nick Cave reinterpreting traditional folk blues and pop songs by other artists. It did not hit the American charts. It did, however, hit number 1 on the UK Independent Albums charts. It had the singer and their cover of Hey Joe on it. In 1987, Debbie Gibson released another album that was huge, at least at that point. This album made teen pop history. At just 16 years old, Debbie Gibson wrote every single song on the record, making her the youngest person to ever write, produce, and sing a number 1 single on the Billboard Hot 100 Singles Chart. That song, by the way, Foolish Beat. Other songs that were really popular on it, Only in My Dreams and Shake Your Love. As far as the album went, it peaked at number 7 in America, and Debbie Gibson ended up winning the ASCAP Songwriter of the Year award in 1989 because of the album's success. So essentially, she won that award when she was 18. Pretty impressive. In 1995, Frank released Goofy Foot. This was released by the self-proclaimed Jewish lesbian folk singer, as she calls herself. This indie punk folk EP was a tribute to the California surfer culture. It did not hit the mainstream Billboard charts, but it did have songs Bulldagger, Swagger, and Surfer Girl. In 1996, At the Drive-In released Acrobatic Tenement. This was the underground debut album that launched the career of one of the most important post-hardcore bands of the era. It didn't chart either, but it did get a huge cult following afterwards. It had the songs Initiation and Blue Tag. In 1998, At the Drive-In was at it again, this time releasing In Casino Out. This was their sophomore album. It was recorded mostly live in studio to capture the band's live concert energy, and it is still seen as being one of the landmark albums of the late 90s emo and post-hardcore genres. Again, didn't hit the mainstream charts, but again, cult classic. It had the songs Napoleon Solo and Alpha Centauri. In 1998, Graham Coxon released The Sky Is Too High. This was the first solo studio album by the ex-lead singer of the Britpop band Blur, at least at that point. It saw him completely stepping away from the pop and enjoying more of a lo-fi folk punk sound. As far as how well it did, well, Hit number 114 on the UK charts, didn't chart in America, had the songs I Wish and Who the F. In 1998, Korn released their huge breakthrough album, Follow the Leader. This was the one that got them all up in the mainstream. Hit number 1 on the Billboard chart. As a matter of fact, it debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200 albums chart. Had the now classics Got the Life and Freak on a Leash. By the way, if you get the 9 Inch Nails Trent Reznor remix of Freak on a Leash, that is far better than the actual album version. I'm just saying. You should check it out. It's probably on all the streaming sites. As far as any awards, it did end up winning the Grammy Award for Best Music Video for Freak on a Leash and the MTV Video Music Awards. In 1998, Kid Rock released Devil Without a Cause. This was a huge album for him, back at a time when people really liked Kid Rock. Like, everybody liked Kid Rock. Now, about half the country. But back then, he was the man. This peaked at number 4, as a matter of fact, on the Billboard 200 albums chart. It had the hot songs Ba with da Ba and Cowboy. Nominated for 2 Grammy Awards, sold 11 million copies. That's how popular the guy used to be. Not so much anymore. Singles that were released on August the 18th include in 1965 when Dino, Desi, and Billy released Not the Lovin' Kind. This was written by Lee Hazelwood, and it proved that the Hollywood Legacy Trio, comprising the teenage sons of Dean Martin and Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, could actually get a hit without their parents' help, and it actually got them teen pop stardom before they even turned 15 years old at the time. Peaked at number 25 on the Billboard Hot 100 singles chart. In 1966, the Four Tops released Reach Out, I'll Be There. It was produced by Holland Dozier Holland, who actually purposely pushed the lead singer Levi Stubbs to sing at the very top of his vocal range in order to give the track a desperate pleading urgency. It birthed one of the most legendary anthems of the entire Motown era, and it worked out rather well because it hit number one in America, hit number one in the UK, and has been inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame and is ranked on Rolling Stone magazine's list of greatest songs ever written. In 1987, Kiss released Crazy Crazy Nights. This was more for the radio-friendly, polished pop metal group, and it hit number 65 on the Billboard Hot 100 singles chart. However, in the UK, it hit number 4. It was their highest charting British single ever. In 1997, the Foo Fighters released Everlong. This was written by Dave Grohl in the wake of his divorce, and this balanced his punk energy with the emotional melodic hooks, and it became one of the greatest rock anthems, not just of the 90s, but of all time. Just saying. Peaked at number 3 on the Billboard Alternative Songs chart, and the video got an MTV Video Music Award nomination. In 1998, Aerosmith released I Don't Want to Miss a Thing. It was written by the iconic Miss Diane Warren, and it was written for the Armageddon soundtrack, which had lead singer Steven Tyler's daughter, Liv Tyler, in the movie, along with Ben Affleck, Bruce Willis, Steve Buscemi, a whole cast of others. Debuted at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 singles chart. It was the band's first and only number 1 single in America after being together at that point for 28 years. The track was also nominated for an Academy Award for Best Original Song at the 1999 Oscars, but it did not win because Diane Warren is the Susan Lucci of the Academy Awards, unfortunately. And by that I mean she always gets nominated. She has yet to win, and I believe she's on nomination number 19 or 20 at this point. Give her a stupid award already. Gee whiz. In 2014, Taylor Swift released Shake It Off. This was co-written with Max Martin and Shellback, and it debuted at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 singles chart. Spent 4 non-consecutive weeks on the chart at number 1. It earned 3 Grammy nominations, won Favorite Song at the People's Choice Awards, and sold 10 million copies. Artists who were born on August the 18th include Vince Maloney, who was born in 1945. He was the lead guitarist for the Bee Gees during their late 1960s Baroque pop and rock era. He also played guitar on the songs To Love Somebody and New York Mining Disaster 1941. Dennis Elliott was born in 1950. He was the original drummer for the arena rock band Foreigner. He was the one who was playing drums on Feels Like the First Time, Cold as Ice, and I Want to Know What Love Is. Nigel Griggs was born in 1954. He was the bass guitarist for the New Zealand art rock and new wave band Split Enz. He was the one who had the rhythm lines for the song I Got You, which was a huge hit. Ron Strykert was born in 1957. He co-founded the Australian new wave rock group Men at Work, and he was also their lead guitarist. He was on the songs like Down Under, Who Can It Be Now, and a whole bunch of others. Dan Peters was born in 1967. He was the drummer for the grunge band Mudhoney. Came out of the 1990s Seattle alternative rock movement. Tracy Tracy was born in 1967. Real name, Tracy Cattell. She rose to indie fame as the lead singer of the British indie pop and alt-rock band The Primitives. They had a huge hit back in 1988 called Crash. Regina Chasang was born in 1976, multi-instrumentalist, singer, co-founder of the indie rock band Arcade Fire. Had huge albums like Funeral and The Suburbs. Probably get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame eventually. Everlast was born in 1969. Real name, Eric Schrody. Everlast is better. He, of course, was the front man for the hip-hop group House of Pain. Had the huge song Jump Around. Later won a Grammy Award for his own solo track, What It's Like. Richard David James was born in 1971. He is known these days as Aphex Twin, which is actually a better name. He is one of the most inventive and influential figures in electronic music history. He pioneered IDM, which is short for Intelligent Dance Music, and also ambient techno. He completely reshaped electronic culture with masterpieces like Selected Ambient Works, 85 to 92. G-Dragon was born in 1988. Real name, Kwon Ji-young. He is a South Korean rapper, singer-songwriter, and producer who is known as the King of K-pop. He was the leader of the boy band Big Bang. Sin Boy was born in 1994. Real name, Theodore Augustin Keka. He is a Greek-Albanian rapper and singer who is huge in the European trap scene. Johnny Preston was born in 1939, pop and rock and roll singer who achieved international fame with his 1959 number one single, Running Bear. Sarah Dash was born in 1945, co-founding member of the group LaBelle alongside Patti LaBelle and Nona Hendrix. They had, of course, their huge hit back in 1974, Lady Marmalade. Barbara Harris was born in 1945. She was the lead singer of the 1960s girl group The Toys. They had hit songs like A Lover's Concerto. Marvin Isley was born in 1953, bass player and youngest member of the legendary vocal dynasty, the Isley Brothers. Played on hits like That Lady and Fight the Power. Mika was born in 1983. Real name, Michael Holbrook Pennyman Jr. Mika's better. A Lebanese-British pop star who was huge with his 2007 debut album, Life in Cartoon Motion. He had hits like Grace Kelly and Lollipop. Clairo was born in 1998. Real name, Claire Cottrell. She was a huge foundational figure of the internet lo-fi bedroom pop movement when her track, Pretty Girl, went viral on YouTube. Zui was born in 1999. That's the first name. Her last name, Gibson. Zanui Gibson. She originally found fame as an internet celebrity and R&B pop vocalist alongside her sisters in the group Cerati. Zinke Cohen was born in 1908, early jazz pianist who was active during the Chicago jazz boom of the 1920s and 30s, played with jazz giant Jimmy Noon. Curtis Jones was born in 1906, American blues pianist and singer known for his Chicago blues style. He wrote and recorded the track Lonesome Bedroom Blues, which became a blues standard. Enoch Light was born in 1905, classical violinist, big band leader, and audio engineer. There's a combo for you. As a matter of fact, he is historically relevant for pioneering stereophonic recording techniques in the 1950s. He created the very first gatefold album jackets to teach listeners about high-fidelity sound. There you go. David Benoit was born in 1953, extremely influential contemporary jazz pianist, composer, and conductor. He is a founding member of the smooth jazz genre, and he was famous for his arrangements on the numerous Charlie Brown and Peanuts musical projects, like A Charlie Brown Christmas, It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, etc., etc. Molly B was born in 1939, real name Molly Beachboard. She was a popular country music singer who found fame as a teenager on Tennessee Ernie Ford's television programs. She then became a huge star in the 1950s country pop crossover scene with hits like I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus. Antonio Salieri was born in 1750, Italian classical composer and conductor who was the director of the Habsburg Court Opera in Vienna. He was not known as being Mozart's bitter rival, by the way. That's what the movie Amadeus, for those who remembered the movie. Good movie. Won the Academy Award for Best Picture, if memory serves. In any event, Salieri was not the bad guy. He did not kill Mozart, unlike what the movie said, but you can't believe movies. By the way, he was actually a highly respected teacher who taught Beethoven, Schubert, and Liszt. So give the dude some credit. He was not the bad guy. Gus Edwards was born in 1878. He was a vaudeville entertainer, songwriter, and music publisher. He wrote the early American pop standards like By the Light of the Silvery Moon, and he discovered child stars like Ray Bolger and George Jessel. Lucienne Boyer was born in 1901, famous French melodist and chanson singer. She became an international star in the 1930s with her romantic signature song, Speak to Me of Love. Jonathan Schneck was born in 1981. He served for a lot of years as a talented multi-instrumentalist, backup vocalist, and guitarist for the Christian pop-punk and alt-rock band Reliant K. Sonny Till was born in 1928. Real name, Erlington Carl Tiemann. He was a lead tenor singer for the group The Orioles, big-time 1950s doo-wop and early R&B group. Kevin Max was born in 1967. He was the singer for the multi-platinum Christian rap rock group DC Talk. Carl Wayne was born in 1943, the original lead singer of the 1960s British mod rock band The Move, had hits like Blackberry Way before he ended up joining the Hollies as their touring vocalist. Patrick Swayze was born in 1952. Yes, everybody knows him for his acting in movies like, Dirty Dancing, for instance. That's actually the reason why we are going to mention him, because he was actually a very talented singer-songwriter who co-wrote and sang the power ballad She's Like the Wind, which got to number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 singles chart as part of the aforementioned Dirty Dancing soundtrack. That's why we mention him. And last but not least, Frances Bean Cobain was born in 1992, the only daughter of Kurt Cobain and Courtney Love. She, these days, is usually a visual artist and model, but she is a focal point of alt-rock history. Had at least 1 or 2 songs written about her, if memory serves, so that's why we mention her. Artists who unfortunately passed away on August the 18th include Johann Heinrich Zang, who passed away in 1811 at the age of 78 from natural causes. He was a German Baroque composer and organist, And he is historically relevant because he was probably, according to legend, one of the final personal pupils of Johann Sebastian Bach in Leipzig. Later, he composed 2 cycles of church cantatas. Erwin Schulhoff passed away in 1942 at the age of 48 from tuberculosis. He was an Austro-Czech composer and a virtuoso classical pianist. He was a pioneer of integrating American jazz rhythms into Europe art music before his life was unfortunately cut short inside the Wolfsburg concentration camp during the Nazi regime. Gottlob Frick passed away in 1994 at the age of 88 from natural causes. He was a German operatic bass singer who was celebrated for his interpretations of characters in Richard Wagner's opera cycles. Roger Smalley passed away in 2015 at the age of 72 from complications from an illness. He was an extremely influential British-Australian classical pianist, conductor, and composer. He spent 4 decades shaping contemporary classical music in Australia. He won awards for his grand orchestral symphonies and concertos. Paul J. Mayers passed away in 1949 at the age of 49 from cancer. He was an early American jazz cornet and trumpet player from New Orleans, and he is famous for leading the New Orleans Rhythm Kings, who were one of the most influential bands in Chicago that participated in some of the first interracial jazz recordings in history alongside Jelly Roll Morton. Cy Walter passed away in 1968 at the age of 53 from cancer. He was nicknamed the Art Tatum of Park Avenue. He was a master of the New York Cafe Society cocktail piano and became a staple of elite Manhattan lounges. He drew huge nightly crowds that included stars like Cole Porter and Leonard Bernstein. Clarence Hutchinwright passed away in 1991 at the age of 83 from cancer. He was an American jazz clarinetist and alto saxophonist. He found fame during the height of the swing era as the soloist for the extremely successful Glenn Gray and the Casa Loma Orchestra. Hal Singer passed away in 2020 at the age of 100 from natural causes following a fall. He was a legendary tenor saxophonist and bandleader, and his 1948 instrumental record Cornbread became a #1 R&B jukebox hit. Greth Ingman passed away in 1990 at the age of 52 from cancer. Greth was a Danish pop and jazz singer who won international fame alongside her guitarist husband, Jørgen Ingman, and together they won the 1963 Eurovision Song Contest. Fernand Gignac passed away in 2006 at the age of 72 from hepatitis. He was an extremely popular French-Canadian crooner, actor, and television host from Quebec. He was also known as being Canada's ultimate romantic singer. He recorded over 30 albums, sold over 6 million records throughout his 50-year career. Scott McKenzie passed away in 2012 at the age of 73 from Guillain-Barré syndrome. Real name, Philip Blondheim. Okay, Scott McKenzie is much better. His voice was the sound of the 1960s counterculture movement. He sang the anthem San Francisco, Be Sure to Wear Flowers in Your Hair, and he co-wrote the Beach Boys' #1 hit, Kokomo, for the Cocktail soundtrack. That starred Tom Cruise, Elizabeth Shue, Brian Brown. Gina Gershon had a brief couple scenes in the movie. Good flick. Ray Hildebrand passed away in 2023 at the age of 82 from dementia. He was the Paul in the famous 1960s pop duo Paul and Paula. He wrote and sang on their 1963 international #1 teen pop sensation, Hey Paula. After that, he switched over to modern contemporary Christian music and became one of the pioneers in that genre. Purvis Jackson passed away in 2008 at the age of 70 from brain and liver cancer. He was the bass voice and spokesperson for the group The Spinners. He was on hits like Rubber Band Man and Games People Play. They are now in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Kenny Edwards passed away in 2010 at the age of 64 from prostate cancer. He was an American singer-songwriter and bassist who co-founded the folk rock band The Stone Ponies alongside a very young Linda Ronstadt at that time. Tony Jackson passed away in 2003 at the age of 63 from cirrhosis of the liver and heart disease. He was the original bass player and lead vocalist for the 1960s British Mercy Beat band The Searchers. They had international hits like Sweets for My Sweet and Sugar and Spice. Jack Sherman passed away in 2020 at the age of 64 from a heart attack. He was the second official guitarist to join the alt-funk rock band the Red Hot Chili Peppers. He was the one who played on their 1984 debut album, and he co-wrote a lot of their second album, Freaky Styley. Banu Kirbag passed away in 2025 at the age of 74 from cancer. She was a highly celebrated Turkish pop and folk singer who rose to fame in the late 20th century. She had hits like Forgotten. Elmer Bernstein passed away in 2004 at the age of 82 from cancer. He was one of Hollywood's most prolific and innovative film composers. In fact, for over a half-century career, he wrote unforgettable musical scores for masterpieces like The Magnificent Seven, The Ten Commandments, To Kill a Mockingbird, and also Ghostbusters. Rick Griffin passed away in 1991 after getting into a fatal motorcycle accident in 1991, 3 days earlier on August the 15th. He was the one who designed the legendary flying eyeball posters and album covers for the Grateful Dead. Next on the Music History Today podcast, it is August the 19th, when in 2003, the celebrity reality show Newlyweds, Nick and Jessica, debuted on MTV.